most folks don't hold on to their bonds till full maturity in this unfortunate modern world. So they could actually pay, which would be slightly better than the going rate, an interest rate on a savings bond, generate more than enough capital without having to go borrow funds from foreign nations. The fact that somebody suggested the possibility of minting $1 trillion coin would magically make the debt go away anyway. Anybody else think that that's asinine? What's going to determine the value of that coin being $1 trillion? At some point down the road, doesn't the U.S. government have to guarantee and back up that they will indeed pay $1 trillion for that coin? Isn't that just raising the debt even further? Because it's not like you actually have $1 trillion worth of something. You're talking about a single coin that we're applying a face value of $1 trillion on. That's almost more made up than our paper money system is to begin with. In fact, I don't even know why I used the word almost, because it is, without a doubt. We have to reach these people who have been slowly letting their rights be taken away from them for nothing more than empty promises and lies. During the course of this press conference, the Occupier insisted that Congress has to act. He insisted that Congress doesn't have a choice, and that he's not going to negotiate with this because it's not appropriate. Well, I suppose he would know, since he voted against raising the debt ceiling when he was a senator 4 times, 3 times of which were unquestionably part of maneuvering over funding, an attempt to cut funding towards a budgeted item that they, in this case being the Democrats, simply didn't want to continue to fund, and that was troops in Iraq. He's perfectly okay with it when he's not the one in the driver's seat and he's the one not going to get the blame when something goes wrong. But ladies and gentlemen, the threat over Social Security, again, earlier broadcast tonight, early this morning post on social media, I made the point. Other people have made this point. It's easy enough for you to find this out for sure if you don't believe it. So if you're on the right, start telling folks this. If you're on the left, check this out. And then start asking your party's leadership why they keep forcing this lie on the American people. The United States government is taking in billions of dollars a month. If the debt ceiling doesn't get raised, then it is within the authority of the executive office of the president to prioritize payments. He'll get to decide what gets paid, what has to be late, what gets sent out on time. If your Social Security doesn't come in on time, if the Republicans in the House hold up raising the debt ceiling, it's not because the Republicans held up the debt ceiling. It's because the Occupier or the White House decided that you're not important enough to be the top priority. Now, he wants you to believe that it's the Republicans' fault, and he will go so far as to withhold those checks and say, well, it's because of the debt ceiling. He'll never once tell you that he had the authority and the ability all along to send you your check anyway, because he wants you mad at them. He wants you blaming them, and he wants you demanding them give him his way. We as conservatives have to reach out and make the point to every American citizen that the only person to blame is the Occupier. Over and over again, since we first ran into the fiscal cliff negotiations, he has refused to offer any budget cuts. He doesn't want to touch entitlements because entitlements are where his voting base comes from. He doesn't want those people who are below the taxable income levels to turn on him or his party. Why? Because that's the base of the power. And why are they so anti-business on the left side? Well, because socialists don't like independent wealth anyway. They don't believe that any money that is floating around in an economy belongs to an individual, period. They think it's all theirs. They think they know how to spend it better than you do anyway, so they might as well have it. But what we have to do is manage to show the concrete proof over and over again until enough people start to wake up and realize that if you're being held back, it's not by the people you think it is. Business is not the enemy of the poor. Business is how the poor gets the opportunity to not be poor. Business is how the poor gets the opportunity to earn a living if they can't find a way to start their own business. Business is how the poor gets the opportunity to go to a free clinic, because how do those free clinics come into being? Most of them operate on donations that come from wealthier benefactors or from donations directly from businesses as part of an altruistic outreach. Business is not the enemy of the poor. Anti-business legislation and regulations are the enemy of the poor. Politicians that want to lie to you and tell you that they're helping you the whole time they're actually stabbing a knife in your freaking back is the enemy of the poor. There was a time in America where the Democratic Party legitimately stood up to try to help the working class citizens to have a better standard of living. At some point, the party became completely overrun, at least on the national level, by the so-called progressives. The so-called progressives, and the reason I say so-called, is because there's nothing really forward-thinking about these folks. They call themselves progressive because they had to redefine what it is they're after. These people are socialists. These people are Marxists. These people are hardcore Central American dictator-style Marxists who want to control every aspect of every part of the lives of every citizen and non-citizen resident within its borders. Now, not every person in the Democratic Party is like that. Not every person who votes Democratic is that way. Promise you that there are a lot of people who vote Democratic who not only don't realize that their national party has been taken over by people who are that way, but who just refuse to believe it. You can sit there and you can tell them a million times. And what you have to do isn't just tell them talking points, because they've heard plenty of talking points from the other side. You have to get into real-world examples. We have to become better communicators. And it's up to us as everyday citizens to pick up that mantle and to go out and have these conversations and communicate with these people. And we've got to do it in a fashion that makes sense to them. Why? Because the leadership of the parties aren't interested in informing the American public about anything they're doing. Chris Christie, who has been hailed for at least the last 3.5 years as the future of conservatism in government, absolutely hammered away at Republican leadership over tabling votes on Hurricane Sandy relief. Rightfully so, as the governor of a state that was suffering from the devastating effects. But now you have to question what level of conservatism he really represents when, even after finding out about all of the additional pork that is in the upcoming bill, that will be looked at and probably voted on tomorrow, January 15th, why he's still clamoring that it has to get passed right away. Let's not even waste any time talking about it. Let's not waste any time doing crap. Just pass it. Get money to my people. I'm sorry. But when there's $100 million in it for Head Start and $1 million+ for Alaskan fisheries and money for NASCAR and money for Wall Street banks, what does any of that have to do with Hurricane Sandy relief? And don't get me wrong, if the Alaskan fisheries need some additional aid from one of the government departments and it's constitutionally legal for the government to do that, then hey, more power to them. But why is it part of a hurricane relief package emergency spending bill? Why? Shouldn't that be part of a budgeted release from a regular governmental agency? Yes, I think so. As far as money for Wall Street banks, well, are these particular Wall Street banks helping to provide recovery funds to the citizens in the New York and New Jersey area? If that's the case, and you can make a legitimate argument, then maybe. But do we have any guarantees that that's what these banks will actually use that money for? According to the legislation, as far as I've seen it, no, we don't. So if I'm voting on this bill, I'm saying no. Now, again, let's put a package together that is strictly Hurricane Sandy relief efforts, and then let's debate it on that merit. Because, I see the legitimate point of certain extremist conservatives who say that it's simply not the role of the federal government to be involved with that type of charity. Now, I'm torn on the issue because I hate to see any people suffering unnecessarily. I just hate it. Which, again, is also another one of those points that we as conservatives really need to get out there and really need to communicate. We are not heartless, soulless, evil people because we don't believe the government should be doing certain things. I'm a person who believes in faith. I'm a person who believes in community. And I'm a person who believes that it is the role of the community to go out and provide this type of assistance and to do the things that need to be done. I believe that it is the role of compassionate people who have time and opportunity and, as hard as it is to find in this economy, additional cash to make those kind of efforts and make the change to offer relief and aid to not only our fellow Americans, but to people around the world. We are one of the most generous nations on the planet. But again, it's harder and harder every single year to continue to have that level of generosity when we're in worse financial shape ourselves. There are more people on food stamps now than ever. Why? Because the economy is in the crapper. The Occupier's administration claims that we have job growth. How can we have job growth when no business can budget for the remainder of the year until the debt ceiling issue is taken care of and until the mandatory cuts or some new level of federal political theater is passed as a compromise solution to the remainder of the fiscal cliff theater? No business can adequately budget what it's going to have to pay in taxes down the road because it has no idea right now what it's going to be. So these businesses are reluctant at best to hire new employees. They're also reluctant at best to increase wages. Businesses and Wall Street, which is based on businesses and business projection, for those of you who don't get that, who don't understand how the stock market works, and I know there's a lot of folks out there. That's not a bad thing. If you don't understand it, it's complicated. There's a lot of hoodoo voodoo that goes on too. But the bottom line is general up is usually a trend that you can follow for several businesses across a wide variety of industry. These industries are better